I moved into Snowbridge Heights last November. A small, quiet neighborhood upstate. Only about 30 homes, all spread out across rolling hills blanketed with pine trees. Every house looked like it belonged on a postcard. Snow-covered roofs, warm porch lights, smoke curling up from brick chimneys. It was exactly what I needed after my divorce. Peace. Distance. Quiet. The neighbors were friendly enough, though a little strange. There was Walter, the old man across the street, who never left his house but watched from the window all day. Miss Darlene next door baked cookies weekly, but never looked you in the eye. And then there was that house on the far end of the street, the dark one with the blackout curtains and no car in the driveway. Everyone called it number 19, like it was cursed. It started snowing heavy in mid-December, and that's when things got weird. One morning, I stepped outside to grab my mail and noticed something unusual. Footprints. Dozens of them. Bare feet, small, human, child-sized, marching across my yard in random directions. No shoe prints. No boot tracks. Just a mess of little footprints, and no trail leading to or from them. They just started in the middle of the yard and ended near the edge of the woods. I looked around. There were no children in this neighborhood. No one outside, and the snow was fresh from overnight, untouched, except for those strange, scattered steps. I brought it up to Miss Darlene that afternoon while shoveling the driveway. Her face dropped instantly. She stopped mid-shovel and looked me dead in the eyes. "You didn't follow them, did you?" she asked. "What?" "No," I replied, laughing nervously. "Good. Don't. And next time, sweep over them fast. Don't let them stay in the snow." She walked away without another word. A week later, I heard it. I was up late reading when a noise caught my attention like dragging. Something moving through the snow just outside my living room window. I turned off the lamp and peeked through the blinds. At first, I saw nothing. Just the soft glow of the street lamps and snowflakes drifting like ash. Then I saw movement near number 19. Something was crawling in the snow. Not walking, crawling. On all fours. It looked like a person, naked, pale, dragging itself slowly across the street. I thought maybe someone was hurt, or drunk, or suffering from hypothermia. Then it stopped. It stood. No struggle. Just straight from all fours to two legs, like a puppet pulled up by strings. And it turned its head. Toward me. Its face was wrong, smooth and flat. Too long. No mouth. It looked at me for several seconds, then ran. I stepped back, heart racing. But it didn't come to my house. It ran straight into the woods, and disappeared. The next morning, I found new footprints outside my door. Bare. Small. And facing the door, like someone had stood there a long time. I started hearing noises inside the walls after that. Scratching. Shifting. Like something moving behind the plaster, dragging itself from room to room. One night I found the attic door open. I don't have an attic door. It was just there, above the hallway. A square hatch I'd never noticed before, with a pull string dangling down. I shut it, but every night after, it was open again. I decided to talk to Walter, the man across the street. He'd lived there longest. Maybe he knew what was going on. When I mentioned the footprints and the thing in the snow, he sighed and looked down. "You've seen them now," he said. "It means they've seen you, too." I asked him what they were. "They only come when the snow is fresh and the wind is still," he whispered. "They hate noise. They hate warmth. But mostly they hate being seen." He looked out the window at the falling snow. "That's why no one goes out during the first night of snowfall. That's why we all stay quiet. You broke the rule." "What are they?" I asked again. Walter didn't answer at first. Then he said, "We call them the Hollow Children. Don't follow their steps. Don't invite them in. And never, never answer a knock after midnight." That night, at 12:17 a.m., I heard knocking. 3 soft taps on my front door. Then silence. I didn't move. Then I heard it again. But this time from inside the house. 3 knocks on my bedroom door. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, frozen, clutching a flashlight like it could help. When dawn came, the knocking stopped. But in the hallway, the attic door was open again. And something had come down. I know because I found wet footprints on the carpet. Bare. Small. Leading from the attic to my room. And they stopped beside my bed. I left the next day. Packed what I could, and got the hell out. I stayed with a friend for weeks. Every time it snowed, I kept my blinds shut, TV off, lights dim. I tried to forget. But I got a call yesterday. The new owner of my house. She found my number in the mailbox. She said she was worried. She asked, "Did you ever hear anything crawling in the attic?" I didn't respond. Then she said, "I found something strange. A photograph under the floorboards. Of children. Pale. Standing in the snow. And one of them looks just like you." I hadn't been back to my childhood home in nearly 15 years. My parents passed within a year of each other, and when I turned 30, the house was left to me. A small wooden house out in rural Maine, surrounded by pines and permafrost, tucked at the end of an unplowed road no one remembered. Growing up, the house always felt too big for the three of us. Or maybe it was just too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums. I arrived on a Friday afternoon in late January, planning to stay a few nights and clean it up for potential sale. The snow was relentless, already blanketing the roof and deck in thick layers, and more was forecasted. Perfect timing. The house looked frozen in time. Nothing had changed. Same pale green walls, same creaky wooden porch, same rusted mailbox that used to scare me as a kid because it always looked like it had teeth. Inside was colder than I expected. No heat. I turned on the old boiler system, but it coughed and rattled without much luck. I figured I'd just keep my coat on and make do. I dropped my bags, went upstairs to my old room, and stopped dead in my tracks. Someone had already been there. My childhood room, small, with slanted ceilings and frost-lined windows, was off. All the toys were in the same places I remembered, but too precisely placed. Like someone had studied photos and recreated it. My old bed, twin-sized and wooden, had the exact same navy blue blanket I used as a kid. Even the book on the nightstand was open to the page I always stopped at. And the strangest part, there were tiny boot prints in the dust near the bed. They were too small to be mine. That night, the temperature dropped to near zero. I bundled under layers and tried to ignore how wrong everything felt. At some point, I drifted into a shallow sleep. Then I heard it, crunching, outside. At first, I thought it was wind snapping branches, but it was rhythmic, like footsteps, heavy ones. Someone was walking through the snow around the house. I sat up, heart hammering, and checked the window. Visibility was low, but through the flurries, I could make out movement, a tall figure slowly circling the house, dragging something behind it. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. The footsteps stopped at the front porch. Then a knock. Not on the door. On the window, the one just beside my bed. 3 sharp knocks. I turned my head slowly, but there was no face. Just a shape, barely visible in the swirling snow, pressing its forehead against the glass. It stayed there for a long time before fading into the dark. The next morning, I found a single, child-sized mitten on the porch. It was stiff, old, and dirty, like it had been buried for years. I picked it up and froze. It was mine. I remembered that mitten. I lost it when I was 8, during the worst snowstorm of my childhood. I'd fallen into a snowdrift near the woods. My dad found me hours later, barely conscious. I looked out toward the tree line, and I saw it, drag marks, just like the ones I'd made that night. Except these led away from the house. I followed the tracks out past the yard into the woods. The forest looked the same, but something felt warped, like it was watching me. About 30 yards in, I saw something jetting out of the snow. A shape, curved, wooden. I brushed away the snow and uncovered an old sled, red, rusted metal runners. Another memory hit me like a freight train. My cousin Levi. He lived with us briefly when I was young. He and I used to sled back there, down a long hill past the tree line. But Levi disappeared one winter night. They said he ran away, that he'd been unhappy. But I remember now, I was with him that night. We were sledding. We heard something in the woods. A voice. I was too scared to go, but Levi wasn't. He said, "It sounds like your mom. I think she's lost." But my mom was inside the house. He followed the voice into the trees. And he never came back. I never told anyone what I'd heard. I was too scared. My parents told the cops he ran off. But I always knew that wasn't true. And now, here I was, staring at the same sled he rode that night, half buried, frozen solid. Next to it, fresh drag marks in the snow. I ran back to the house, heart pounding. That night, it came back. This time, the door opened by itself. A gust of wind blew in, flurries swirling across the floor like ash. And in the center of the doorway stood a figure, tall, pale, eyes sunken deep into a face that didn't match any human I'd ever seen. It wore tattered winter clothes, and it held something. A photo. My photo. Me and Levi on the sled, smiling. The thing dropped the picture on the floor, then pointed to the woods with one long, shaking finger. And it whispered, "You forgot him." I slammed the door. The next morning, the picture was gone, but the footprints weren't. Small ones, leading from my bed, to the front door, and out, like a child had walked barefoot through the house. I left that day. I didn't clean the house. I didn't pack. I just got in my car and drove. But I can still hear the crunch of snow at night sometimes. And when I sleep, I dream of a little boy's voice calling my name from the woods. Three weeks ago, my girlfriend Zoe and I decided to rent a cabin up north. We both needed a break, from the city, from people, from everything. It was supposed to be cozy and quiet, a chance to reset. The listing said, rustic mountain hideaway. Private, perfect for couples or solo travelers looking for seclusion. That last word, seclusion, is what sold it for me. I wish now we hadn't gone. The place was tucked deep in the woods, about 2 miles off the main road. We arrived just before a heavy snowstorm, which was expected to drop nearly 2 feet. The timing worked in our favor, or so we thought. We'd be snowed in with nowhere to go. Just us, the fireplace, hot drinks, and some quiet. When we pulled in, the sun was already low, and the snow had started to fall. The cabin looked just like the photos, wood-paneled walls, a slanted roof, and one large window that overlooked the white forest. It looked peaceful. The first night was perfect. We unpacked, made hot cocoa, and played board games by the fire. Zoe kept saying how she loved the silence, the way the snow seemed to muffle the world outside. I remember telling her, it's like the forest swallowed the noise. But sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up. There was a sound, a very faint tapping. I sat up in bed, listening. At first, I thought it was branches against the window, but it was too consistent. 3 taps, pause. 3 taps again. It was coming from the back of the cabin. I got up quietly and slipped on my boots and jacket. Zoe was still asleep, so I didn't wake her. I stepped outside into the snow. The sky was pitch black, the only light coming from the moon reflecting off the thick white landscape. My breath came out in clouds. I walked around the back, following the sound, but there was nothing there. Just the forest and snow. No branches near the cabin, no animals, no footprints. Not even my own. That's what chilled me, literally and figuratively. I'd been walking in the snow, but there were no footprints. Mine had disappeared as soon as I made them. I hurried back inside. Zoe stirred when I climbed back into bed. "Everything okay?" she mumbled. "Yeah," I whispered. "Just snow shifting." But I barely slept that night. Day 2. The storm was full-blown by morning. Heavy snow pounded the roof and windows, and the wind howled through the trees. We couldn't leave even if we wanted to. The snow was at least 1.5 feet deep. I didn't mention the tapping from the night before. We spent most of the day indoors. Around noon, I noticed something strange. The snow outside, on the far end of the yard, where the tree line started, looked disturbed. Like a shallow trench had been made. Not footprints, but a long, single drag mark, like something had been pulled or had crawled across the snow. I pointed it out to Zoe. "Looks like a deer or something," she said. But I could tell by her face that she didn't believe that either. That night, the tapping returned. This time it was louder, and it moved. I lay awake, holding Zoe close, listening as the tapping circled the cabin. It moved from the back to the side wall, then to the window by the kitchen. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then it stopped. I got up once I was sure the sound was gone. I looked through the curtains. There, standing just at the edge of the tree line, was a figure. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, and thin. It had no distinct features. Just a dark silhouette against the snow. But it wasn't standing on the snow. It was in it, half buried. And yet, it wasn't cold. It wasn't shivering. It was just staring. The next morning, the figure was gone. But something was different inside the cabin. Zoe found it first. A small pile of snow in the living room, like someone had brought it in with their boots. Only we hadn't left the cabin, and the door had been locked. I checked the door and windows. All locked. Nothing broken. No sign of a forced entry. But the snow was there. Real. Wet. Melting into the wood floor. Day 3. We decided to pack up early and try to leave. I knew the car wouldn't make it down the trail in that snow, but I didn't care. I just wanted to go. Zoe went to take a shower while I started gathering our stuff. About 10 minutes later, I heard her scream. I rushed to the bathroom. She was huddled in the corner, wrapped in a towel, shaking. She pointed to the foggy mirror. There was something written on it, drawn by a finger from the inside of the mirror fog. "Let me in." We left that day on foot. We hiked through waist-deep snow, following the trail until we reached the road. A snowplow eventually picked us up, and we called a friend to come get us. That should have been the end of it, but last week Zoe texted me in the middle of the night. I heard it again, the tapping. Then yesterday, I woke up and found a single pile of snow, melted, on my apartment's living room floor. The cabin's still listed online. I checked the reviews. There are none, but the host's last reply says, "Thank you for your inquiry. Please note, the guest must never open the door after midnight, even if someone knocks. Especially if they sound like you."